You know the old saying, when it comes to sustainable caregiving, you can't run all day on 2% battery. You are not failing, you're just running on 2% battery. During my 7 challenging years caring for my brilliant, beloved, big brained, suicidally depressed wife, Danny, I was never sure in all that pain and turmoil exactly what that philosophy meant. But I can tell you from my infinitely wiser perspective that if your own inner resources are compromised or in any way depleted, you are no good to anyone else, especially yourself. And if your own battery resources are depleted, well, let me just say there's a reason you always see people charging devices in coffee shops. It's a little bit like that other famous advice the flight attendant distributes before takeoff, after the water bottles go around, and before the emergency procedure foldouts return back unread to the pockets. I mean, these days, does anyone even take them out? Secure your own mask first before assisting others. Of course, it's assumed by every seasoned traveler that that means oxygen masks. But believe me, as a committed caregiver who was perhaps a little too overzealous and a lot too self sacrificial, you tend to wear a lot of other masks as the days pass, completely out of necessity. I know I did during this tumultuous time as the lines began to blur between where Danny left off and where I began. After a while, I lost track of me, what part I played in any given day. Was I altruistic Annie, equipped with my backpack of helpful ideas, attempting to heal the hopelessness and scale that bottomless Grand Canyon of extreme anxiety? Or was I patient Peggy, who never uttered a word of judgment, listening to that daily rehearsal of emotional trauma that was my wife in victim mode? Sad to say, was there any other mode? Other than that endlessly repetitive laundry list of wrongs perpetuated against her, the heavy duty health issues, gender dysphoria, the ultimate unhappy. Right back to the parental abandonment she just couldn't abandon. Ah, the irony. My own health struggles with debilitating chronic fatigue syndrome were effectively eclipsed by the sheer power of my wife's ever present prison of pain. The woman, seriously, she wore her outraged anguish like a second skin. That's when I would transform into Martyr Matilda, who soothed her uncontrollable sobbing with heartfelt reassurances. No, you are not a useless burden. You are not worthless to me. I love you. Yes, Martyr Matilda, whose only recourse in the face of frequent, I'm just holding you back self recriminations was to live her truth by giving up independent outings, out of town travel, because there was no answer. If I went ahead by myself, that made her feel even more lonely. And when I tried to include Danny in my social activities, she became jealous and angry, even over something as simple as me having a meal with my best friend Joanne. Frustrating? Yes. Difficult to keep going? To continue alone working to support us? Yes. Despite every fibromyalgia of my being crying out for a rest, an escape from this physical and emotional ordeal. CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome, it feels like you have the flu all the time. During that time, the nausea, headaches, minor fevers, muscle pain, All of it was a distraction that I had to ignore and just keep going, keep working. I had to move us out from under the mountain of debt that was caused by our two-person business now being only me. But ultimately, it was just easier to shelve old, let's make a difference, Mickey, for a while and become Stoic Sally, who, in self defense, simply steeled herself to Danny's continual self termination table talk. And when I say table talk, I mean the specter of suicide didn't hang silently over us, occasionally batting her eyelashes at the angel of death. Truth is, life taking by suicide was a multiple times a day conversation topic. It wasn't treated like a or else threat like you see in movies or on TV, but more like something mundane, like what's the weather today? What are we going to do for supper? No, you see, it was like every single challenge, big or teeny tiny small. The answer was suicide. Through all that, it's really odd to say that somehow you become immune to it in a sense. You just morph into numb Nancy after a while. So, because it was always there, I didn't really know if she would ever take that step. It's like when someone talks about taking a Mediterranean cruise or finally giving up smoking, but they seemingly never do it. So, it is surprising when they actually do make that happen. So, where was I in all of this mess? Well, let me say, you know something is wrong in your life when you calmly greet a mastectomy as a chance to finally take a break from the so long that you've been single-handedly holding it all together. I always felt such an extreme obligation to keep working no matter what. I had to push through any chronic fatigue physical symptoms, push those to the side. Now, when I had cancer and I was undergoing treatments, I didn't mind that as much because work was actually a really good distraction. Many people, they think about death, they think about what their life has been, what they've done, and what they still want to do when they face a cancer diagnosis. I'll tell you though, it did not occur to me for one single second that I was going to die, even when I had that stage 3 breast cancer diagnosis. I knew this was a blip in my life, it was a temporary situation. When my current therapist asked me recently how I got through it all, my response was just that. I knew things were temporary, things would change. So even though I really wanted to go tuck into a corner with a blanket and a pillow and hide from everything, from work, from Danny, from all of the symptoms, everything, I also knew that this situation that I was in was untenable, unsustainable. Something was going to give and it would all change. When I woke up alone that first morning, I sighed, enjoying the luxuriant warmth of the sun peeking through the window, while at the same time also feeling horribly sad. My wife of 7 years was no longer there. The silence was deafening. The void was palpable. Grief oozed out of me so slowly and involuntarily, like an uncapped tube of polysporin ointment. The day before, Mother's Day 2024, my wife Danny died by suicide after a lifelong battle with debilitating depression and mental illness. Now I was alone and exhausted. The caregiving weight lifted off me. Danny was no longer in pain, and I was only responsible for myself and our two cats. I had wanted things to be different, but not due to Danny's death. But that's what it took for the change. Beaten down like a boxer, feeling like I was pummeled hard like pretzel dough, I knew that this was my new beginning. I had to redesign my way of being. It had come down to a crossroads. Danny had always known the path she wanted to travel as she railed at the cards she felt destiny had unfairly dealt her. I had just been caught up in the crossfire of her profound despair, vying with her inability to heal it, and it was time to come out of the bunker darkness of survival and stare gratefully into the sustaining sunlight of that new day. Danny chose death, but me, Mickey Forsyth, I choose life. From that moment on, I put myself as the priority. Slowly, the healing began. I started back on the path of love and light and the retrospective wisdom of loss. Caregiving, especially while also being an entrepreneur, to that extent is impossible to withstand. It wasn't kindness, it wasn't altruism. That experience was life sacrifice, self annihilation. It broke me down, burnt me out, and transformed me into a shell of my former self. I learned the hard way how undeniably essential it is to practice self care always and forever. In all those masks I wore for protection, I neglected to don the proverbial oxygen mask of self love and preservation. Now, in my professional role as a virtual lifeguard, rescuing unsuspecting chronic caregivers, and there are a lot of us, no much giving too much of ourselves in varying degrees. Oh yes, I rescue you from that bottomless ocean of extreme altruism, that all or nothing identity threatening misconception of care, and guide you to embrace new, more effective self-care strategies that allow you to help others while still remaining safely buoyed up yourself with those essential water wings of self-care and security, and the occasional yummy caramel ice cap. Because it's easier to be the one that people rely on than the one that takes care of themselves, isn't it? Oh, yes, it's much more simple to mind other people's business. I was on a call recently, and a friend of mine said that when she has 10 things on her to-do list, if eight of them are for other people and only two are for herself, she does those eight other things for the other people first. Other people are the priority. Of course, there is also some ego involved. It feels good to have people say, "Hey, how are you standing up?" Or, "Oh my God, you are amazing. How do you keep going?" I just don't know how she does it. What a miracle worker. As women, we are taught that taking care of others is our priority. If everyone else is good, then so are you, and not a second before. Then you deserve praise. You deserve to have a cup of tea because you earned it by taking care of everyone else. Hogwash. We don't have to earn the right to take care of ourselves. If anything, we need to take care of ourselves first before we allow ourselves to take care of anyone else. Remember, you can't run on 2% battery unless you're plugged in or something like that. My experience with Danny taught me that patience and self-love are critical to survival. It also taught me that I was completely wrong to not stand up for myself and say these words. I need a break. I need a nap. I need away from all these walls and this endless negative energy. I don't like the word should, but I should have been made my boundaries much more clear and felt fine about doing it. Not guilty, not ashamed, but downright grand about doing so because self-care measures were needed for me to save me. Yes, Danny's death allowed me to finally see how burned out I was, how much I'd let my self-care slide. I began rebuilding my life, enjoying travel again, practicing daily self-care, and making choices that are right for me. What I came to realize is that there are three A's to self-care. Aware, being aware of how we are neglecting our needs. Then acknowledgement. Once we're aware, then we need to acknowledge it. Say, yep, that's not happening right now. While in the midst of the steep decline with Danny, I was aware that I was not caring for myself. I could even sometimes acknowledge that I had unmet needs. But back then, I was so paralyzed by the situation that I couldn't take that next step, action. Once we're aware and acknowledge the situation, we must take action to correct it. Even a few deep breaths can do wonders for our well-being. When Danny was alive, I didn't know how to take action without feeling guilty that I was hurting her in some way. It felt like I didn't deserve resolution. I could not put myself as a priority. Now I understand that self-care also includes self-compassion. We must give ourselves the grace to practice every tiny little bit of self-care we can, and then that leads to more self-love. Self-care plus self-compassion equals self-love. We can agree that all of us can love ourselves just a little bit better, right? So, how do we prevent ourselves from going into burnout when we're in the heart of an overwhelming situation? When it feels like we have to do everything or it will not be right. One of my clients says it's the and syndrome that can really get to you. You're trying to help, but it's like saving a drowning person who, in their panic, is hanging on to you, clinging to you to the point where you're both going under. When they guilt you into doing more and more, it makes it so hard to say no to that manipulation because you know they are truly in need. But if you can't establish boundaries, the next thing you know, you're giving up your day job and you're moving in as an unpaid servant because they don't want strangers in their house. It makes it even worse when you're an entrepreneur with your own business because the whole family perceives you as you have all the time in the world because you don't really work and you don't have a real job, right? So, how do we balance caregiving and entrepreneurship with self-care at the most critical time? We also need to accept outside support. It's not only okay, it's absolutely essential to ask for help from someone like me who has been there and has the experience and now the expertise to give you guidance that you need along the way. We can stand strong and be true to ourselves while taking care of our other people and including our own business. It just takes some planning and practice. A little simple, easy habit of practice we're going to start right now. I invite you to grab a notebook, grab a sticky note, anything you can refer to later, just a piece of paper and a pen. Now, write on the note at the top, self-care spark. Think about 1 to 3 things. Not, it doesn't have to be a big list, just a couple things that you can do throughout the day or that you can pay more attention to throughout the day. Keep it simple and realistic. It could be taking deep breaths before you step out of bed in the morning. It might even be creating a power playlist. Now, take a couple of minutes to write down a few ideas. Now, if you only have just one idea, that's a start. It's all good. The last part is we're going to commit. Don't be scared. Just to one little thing. Write on your note, I promise myself to start and insert some super easy self-care habit you can start tomorrow. Then sign your name. And if you're type A like me, you're going to date it. And there you go. You've taken your first step in rediscovering the real you. I learned so much from what could be considered a heart-rending, impossible, even cruel situation. I feel it was part of my purpose to support Danny through her journey. She told me a number of times that I taught her what unconditional love looks like, and she never felt as loved by anyone as she did by me. Conversely, she also taught me how to love a person like that and how it feels to be with someone you truly care about, no matter what is happening with them. I've come to understand now that I will not be broken. I will not be defeated. I can get through anything. I can also expect, receive, and enjoy happiness, love, and peace. Life for me includes work, fun, and most importantly, self-care. My life's purpose is bigger than being a caregiver for loved ones, though. It's to share this message of love and hope that we can take care of ourselves and each other. It wasn't that Danny wanted to die, but she didn't want to live anymore. She didn't feel like she had anything to contribute to the world, even to our lives together. I will never let that happen to me or anyone I have the opportunity to help take back their power and really see yourself for the truly valuable, strong, brave, and love-worthy person that you are. No more need for masks. You embrace and honor your needs, your authenticity. Before you help others, even before the caramel ice cap, become the love of your life. And from there, it's all up, up, and away.